Okay, so the first like biggest point that was like different in the movie from the book, besides all the things we've already talked about. So the part where Catherine goes to spy on the Lintons, Edgar and Isabella. She goes to spy on them. That is true, and that happens in the book, but Heathcliff goes with her. So they are, Catherine and Heathcliff are running around always like playing, doing different things together. So they go to spy on the Lintons. And also in the movie, they had them like move in part of the way through. I'm pretty sure that they just always lived there. They like lived there the whole time. But I guess it doesn't really matter, like make a difference. But anyway, Isabel and Edgar are living in Thrushcross Grange. And they're brother and sister, official brother and sister.
God, yeah.
In the movie, they made it seem like they weren't actually brother and sister, but they actually are, which is why they have the same last name, Linton. So Edgar Linton and Isabella Linton, brother, sister, living in that house. So Catherine and Heathcliff go to spy on them. So they're spying, and then they do like see them out the window, whatever. And so then Catherine, actually, she doesn't fall and hurt her leg though. I mean, it's irrelevant, but a dog, one of their dogs basically attacks her and like bites her in the ankle and like fucks up her ankle. So when that happens, they come outside and see her and they're like, oh my God. And that's the same. They're basically like, okay, she's hurt. She needs to stay with us until she's better. But Heathcliff is there, but they won't let him come in because again, everyone's like racist and he's like brown and they're like, this dirty gypsy boy, like he can't come in here. He's gross, send him back. Whatever. So he goes back to Wuthering Heights to tell them where Catherine is and what happened to her. And yeah, so basically, Catherine stays at Thrushcross Grange for 5 weeks. In the movie, they say 6. It's irrelevant that it's like a week difference. So the whole time she's there, basically, she is hanging out with Edgar and Isabella. And basically, they depicted that really well, too, in the movie, that when she comes back, like, all of a sudden, she's in, like, fancier dresses and she's, like, speaking better. Because before that, she was, like, a wild, quote-unquote heathen or whatever, just, like, running around wild with Heathcliff. And now she's come back as, like, a lady. Okay? And that scene was actually super, like, well done, I thought, too, where it's, like, she's like, where is Heathcliff? And then she like goes to find him because he like didn't come to greet her. So yeah, okay. So that whole situation happens. Then basically fast forward, whatever, Edgar comes to call on her, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. They're still like developing that relationship. But of course she's like in love with Heathcliff and he's in love with her. And then they also did a pretty good job of the scene with Nellie where basically she says that she's accepted, Edgar has proposed and she's accepted his proposal. And then she says, like, they use the exact words, like she would degrade herself to marry Heathcliff, whatever. And he hears, but she doesn't know that he hears. And then that whole drama of a situation. So it's like the classic miscommunication. Like obviously they're in love with each other, but then whatever. And then that whole part is accurate too. Then he basically just like takes off and disappears. In the movie they said it was for longer. I think she said like 5 years or something like that. But in the book it's 3 years. He's gone for 3 years. And when he comes back, she's married to Edgar, living in Thrushcross Grange. I feel like I might be saying that wrong now, but whatever. But she's living there with Edgar and Isabella. And she is like, quote unquote, like peaceful and happy. But again, this is from Nellie's perspective. So whether she's actually happy, whatever, who knows. But as soon as Heathcliff comes back, and they did a pretty good job, honestly, of that whole part too. The more I'm going through this, I'm like, they did a really good job, I would say, of most of the movie. There's just like a couple things here and there that they like changed. Some of them are irrelevant, like the number of years or the number of weeks for things, like no one cares about that. I just don't understand why they like completely got rid of certain characters, because I feel like it wouldn't have been that hard to have kept it true to the book in that way, but whatever. Oh, and we completely skipped over the fact that in the movie it starts out with that hanging scene, which I think was just like weird and gross, and is like, that's not at all in the book, so it's kind of just like random. Like, I just like don't know why they added that in at all. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So okay, so Heathcliff comes back, and then basically all of the everything that goes down from there on is like pretty legit and accurate, and I think they did a really good job of it. And so according to Nellie, she's like crazy now that Heathcliff's back, but obviously she's just like happy and excited. They do say she's like so happy, so excited to see Heathcliff. He comes to the house every single day. They hang out, whatever. Then Isabella is like obsessed with Heathcliff. That whole scene, again, they did such a good job of the scene with like Catherine and Isabella having the conversation about like basically being like she's basically like talking shit about him, but obviously she doesn't like mean it in a bad way, but she does because she's jealous, obviously, because she wishes that she could marry him and whatever. But anyway, but that's super accurate to the book. Also, the movie was like sexualized in the way that like this was like the 1800s, whatever, so they literally don't talk about sex in the book at all. But some people said that they really sexualized it, and I thought it was like a normal amount of sexualization, so I like didn't think that was weird. She's also pregnant in the book. That is all true. But yeah, and so basically Heathcliff's coming every day. Obviously they're still in love with each other, whatever. Then the whole thing happens with Isabella because he knows that it will drive her crazy the way that her being married to Edgar drives him crazy. And they are both just like toxic and like a little bit fucked up in the way that they're like so obsessed with each other, which I guess is like why people think it's romantic, because they're like so in love with each other. But it's like definitely like toxic and dark that they like want to torture each other so much. But anyway, I guess that's part of like the interesting whatever of the story. So yeah, so then he and Isabella run off together. Heathcliff and Isabella, they get married, and she does write letters, and I'm pretty sure Nellie does get rid of them. So like that whole part was also like super like legit. Where is it that changes? Honestly, nothing changes until, okay, well, I can't remember if I said this already, but the movie's only the first half of the book. So that part is just like different because basically they just do away with the whole second half of the book. And I thought maybe because someone told me that before I went to go see it, which luckily they did, or I would have been like, wait, what the hell? But like it's not even like they did it like Wicked, where they said like, okay, part 1 and like part 2 is coming, but like they couldn't have had part 2 coming because of the way that they changed parts of it, and would make that not possible to have the second part, because basically they got rid of Lindley, the brother, because he in the book is married, they have a son. His son is a key character for the whole second half of the book. We met him in the beginning. We talked about him already. That's Hareton Earnshaw. So already you couldn't do the second half of the book in the movie because that character doesn't exist. So the son can't exist either. But the other thing that they did that was just like weird, I thought, because again, like why wouldn't they just stay true to the book? But whatever, is that Catherine's baby dies, because in the book she has the baby and then she dies. So anyway, I skipped to the one thing about the movie that I thought was really weird, and I've seen people talk about it online and stuff, so I'm not going to go into it, but the whole like scene of Heathcliff making Isabella wear the collar and bark like a dog, like I just like didn't really get why that was necessary. I mean, I guess they were trying to show that he like treated her in this like crazy way, but that was all not actually from the book. So whatever. I mean, I think for sure in the book they do say that he treats her in like a not normal way. And there's the whole scene with him in the bedroom with her. I mean, the whole like, do you want me to stop part that was added in, but all the stuff that he's saying to her, that is true to the book. Like he basically says like, I will never love you, like all this other stuff, but like, do you still want to be my wife? And she still says yes. So anyway, that's kind of crazy, but yeah. Okay. So then they get married, they run off together. So Heathcliff and Isabella are gone, whatever. Or actually no, they're not gone. They're in Wuthering Heights, and Catherine is at home with Edgar. And then she basically does start like descending into like illness, madness, whatever. She's so upset and depressed that Heathcliff is gone and that he's with Isabella and vice versa. And he's like writing the letters. He like wants to like, you know, torture her and get her attention and whatever. And Nellie is basically like not playing into the story on either side. So she's kind of like keeping them apart in a way. So then basically Catherine gets super ill.
Does the book tell you what the content of the letter was?
I don't remember.
Because the movie shows you like a little bit of like what he was writing to, what like Isabella
what Isabella was writing.
Nellie, but did it depict anything about that in the book? Or they just know he was writing to her?
I think it might show the letters, but it might not. I can't remember, honestly.
Was Isabella writing the letters in the book? Okay.
No, yeah, I think it did show the letters. Or, I mean, again, it didn't have like the actual letter, like word for word,
no,
but it had Nellie's recounting of what the letters were saying, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the letter saying in the book?
Babe, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm just asking.
But the way that they did, all I know is that the way they did it in the movie felt to me true to the book.
Okay.
Like it wasn't different enough that I was like, that didn't feel like how it was. There are certain things that like I was like, that didn't feel like how it felt in the book, but like that it's like okay, it did feel like how it was in the book to me. Because for reference, I read the book and I finished it like a week or two ago, and then I read another whole other completely separate book between then and watching the movie now. And then I did start rereading the beginning of the book again last night because I just like wanted to, but I didn't get that far yet in my second reread. So anyway, okay. So where are we now? Now we're at the end of the movie, which is again halfway through the book. So basically, Catherine is like super unwell. Nellie basically like is an unreliable narrator in the book, which I thought they did a really good job in the movie of showing why she would be an unreliable narrator, because basically she like hates them. So she's kind of like gaslighting Catherine and being like, you're not unwell. And like in the book, because Nellie is the narrator, she makes it seem like Catherine is just like making this all up and like doing it for the drama to like get attention. And so like maybe she did do certain things for attention, but she actually was like unwell also. But anyway, basically in the movie, she dies before Heathcliff can get there. And she dies and like the baby is dead, which is not at all. So in the book, the baby lives. It's a girl, not a boy. And she has the baby. And then a few days later, whatever, Heathcliff does show up and they at least get to like have kind of like a conversation, whatever. But he like says stuff that like really like upsets her, I guess. Oh gosh, I really want to reread that part. I don't think I'm doing that justice right now. But anyway, they get into like a big whole thing and she's like, "You're going to kill me. Like you've upset me so much. Like I'm going to die because of how you've upset me." She also is just like ill. But and then he's just like, if you die, like haunt me. They did well, at least they had him, Jacob Elordi, aka Heathcliff, whatever. All the things that he said to her at the end of the movie, he says in the book, but in the book she's still alive and hears him say that to her, versus in the movie she was dead. But like that whole speech and everything he said was like pretty legit from the book. And also it was very legit the way that like Nellie was kind of like manipulating Edgar too and being like, don't go to see her, like you'll just play into her, whatever, and blah blah blah. And so like actually Nellie like sucks.